The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with the panel, Dr. Scott Gershfer and Dr. Mark Bound. And today we have with us again our very special guest, Dr. Jared O. Bell, and we will be answering listener emails. We have a question from Monica, who lives in Liverpool, England. Monica asks, we here in England are very concerned for our American cousins. We here in Europe have seen this before, people disappearing and detained without charge. It seems that any opposition to Trump is a dangerous game to play. I have been listening to your podcast for the past 3 years, and I think I'm correct in saying no one on the panel is a Trump supporter. Now that TV shows are being canceled for criticizing Trump, what are your thoughts on the future of the Nova Society? Are you concerned for your livelihoods and safety? Monica, your answer from me is yes, I am concerned. Thank you for your question. Yes, I am concerned.
Thank you for the concern. How is it over there in Liverpool? Is that winter's okay there? maybe we should do the show from there.
Oh,
yeah. Well, we'll keep up with the Nova Society, but I personally am concerned. Yes, and I am and have been thinking of joining relatives I have who live outside the country, which I am able to do as I have a dual national citizenship. So yeah, I've been thinking about how I'm going to actually pull that off without leaving my horses behind. So we've discussed this among ourselves, and yeah. So Dr. Bell, what are your thoughts? I wanted to ask you, because you've been outside the country, which I have not for a long time. What are your thoughts on the safety of being here and of speaking out?
Greetings to Liverpool, by the way. I have family actually in Liverpool. I was in Liverpool like almost 20 years ago now. It's hard to believe. But to be honest, I think people are afraid. As I said in one of the previous sessions, I was on NBC earlier this week, and one of the things I talked about, and I was asked, like, talking about what happened to us and talking about what happened to USA, the reporter asked, are you afraid? And I said, I'm not afraid, but many people are afraid to speak out because of this government. They're afraid of retaliation. Never have we seen such a level of retaliation from an administration. And that includes from academia, that includes from the corporate world, that includes television, that includes law firms. No one or nothing is safe. But at the same time, I would say that we still have a free and independent and robust media, even though the Trump administration, they're going to try to gut PBS, funding to PBS and CBS. But I think the idea of the truth dying here in the United States is going to be very, very hard because we do have social media and we do have traditional media that's not backing down. And this is why the administration, they like any autocrat, they hate the press, they hate the media because they're continuously being held accountable. So at this particular juncture, I don't think that someone's going to come and arrest me now, or someone's going to come and arrest me, whatever the case. But for instance, one of the reasons why I didn't want to do my NBC interview at my home is because of there could be retaliation. I'd rather do it in a studio that's safe. Versus, again, we just don't know where we are. And at this point, I don't think, as I said, I don't think we're at risk of being arrested. But I think with this case with the Supreme Court and with so much, I feel like rule of law slipping day by day, I think that could be the eventual reality. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine asked me to join him in France last week, and I couldn't go because of work purposes anyway, but I did think about it for a couple of seconds, and then I thought to myself, what would it be like coming back to the United States and going through a port and at JFK more than likely, and to be questions or for them to ask for my cell phone or something like that, and it seems incredible to me that it could happen. It reminds me of the old movie The Great Escape, where these guys had broken out of a prison. They were wearing plain clothes. They were trying to get to the Swiss border or wherever they were trying to get to. There were some people helping them, but at the same time you have these Gestapo walking around asking everybody for their papers. And we don't want to live in that kind of society where people can come up to you and start asking you for your papers. But unfortunately, we are beginning to live in that society. I mean, immigrants have dealt with this. People, I imagine, of color are more afraid of it than, a white-haired, blue-eyed man like myself with very, very red skin in the sun. Somebody coming up to my car and saying, hey, roll down your window and get out of the car and that kind of thing, just randomly. And they're wearing a mask and they have a dime store badge on that's not even a real badge. And they claim to be government employees or, ICE and who knows what they are or what their training is. And they're certainly not de-escalating any kind of situation. They're surrounding you. And the whole thing is terrifying. And what we've seen from, CBS and the law firms and all these situations and even, yes, the academic institutions that have come under fire, some of them, perhaps more justified than others. But this overall sort of tone of like anybody can be a target. It's concerning at least.
Well, of course, I'm the one that gets all the emails, so I get to also peruse through the hate mail, which is interesting. I don't take very much of it seriously. Of course, unlike Scott where he is and Brooklyn where she is and Jared where you are, I live in the middle of the deep, deep conservative Bible Belt South, and so I already have a hard road to hoe being a New Yorker. Actually, they really look at me as Canadian anyway. So I don't really worry about it that very much. I always said that, the older I get, if it's a matter of imprisonment, life imprisonment has become less of a deterrent the older I get. I mean, okay, what are you going to do to me? Also, again, there's a lot of people that I know here that listen to the podcast, know that my views onto things. And I guess, in my own defense, and my wife said this to me the other day. We were out someplace, and she goes, you present yourself as a high-functioning sociopath. So, and everybody knows that you own guns, and I do because my dad was a cop, and I believe in the Second Amendment. I don't believe in carrying it around with me, but okay. And, nobody knows. You actually might be sociopath enough to use the thing, and she's probably right. Because my attitude is that, because here in South Carolina, we have open carry. And if I was to carry it out there, if I draw it, the trigger's getting pulled. And I want to make sure, so that's why I don't do it. That's why I don't do it. I don't worry that much about it. Because my attitude is that, the world's a crazy place. Yes, there's people out there with crazy ideas. And yes, there are people out there that will do bad things to other people, but not if, I guess the best way I could put it is not if you let them know that won't be tolerated. I've thought about this thing about coming back into the country from overseas. And I know what my response would be to whoever, tried to take my phone. It would be total disdain. Now, yeah, I'm probably going to go to a detention center someplace and disappear for a while. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But then when I get out, I am going to bitch, piss, and moan as loud as I possibly can on every platform I can. And there's my retaliation. In some ways, using their own tactics against themselves. And to me, that's the best way to do it. I mean, we've talked about, and we talked earlier in an earlier session, will there be an election in 2028? I know Brooklyn doesn't think so. Jared isn't really too sure. Scott isn't too sure. Me, I truly don't believe very much in the American people. but I do believe in the system. And I think maybe the system will hold. Why? Because we don't like change. And and that is my great hope. I could be totally wrong. I'm not going to do a prediction because we all know here at the Nova Society that when myself or Scott makes a prediction, it is absolutely the kiss of death. That's why we're not saying the Mets are going to win the World Series. But the fact is that I think that platforms like this, and with the viewership, with the listenership that we have, which is significant, and trust me, people, everybody listening, that we never thought that this was going to happen. If you had told me that we were going to have 950,000 subscribers, I would have said, "Are you out of your mind? There's no way." But we're getting there. I mean, we're getting the message out, and we're not only getting it out to the United States. As I was saying to the panel before we started this, I was checking out the numbers. We're Oceania, Australia. We're big in Australia. We're big in Europe. Not so big in Africa or South America, but North America, very, very. We have a huge audience out there, and that makes me think that people are listening because maybe we're making sense. Maybe they just think we're half crazy. Who knows? Either way, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's because we don't monetize. I don't know. But the fact is that we will continue to say what we think. We will continue to examine the facts as they are and present it. When we don't know, we have no trouble in saying, "I don't know." We say it a lot here. I don't know. Or we have to wait until we have all the facts, because that's what scholars do. And if it frustrates some of our people, we get emails about that, frustrates some of our listeners. Why don't you just say, because we don't have the facts? And we're not going to be the other guy. We're not going to be that guy that's going to make up stuff just to appease whoever we're talking to. So, am I worried about safety? Nope, not at all. I'm more worried that Trump tariffs are going to make Franz's kind of beer unavailable here in South Carolina. That will truly, truly upset me to no end. And poor Scotch. So, and his cigars. So, those are our big concerns here. And that's about it. But remember, me and Scott have said numerous times, if we're going somewhere, it's going to be in the Caribbean. It's going to be on a beach. And we're going to just sit there and just watch the rest of the world go to hell in a handbasket. Hopefully that answered that question from all four of us.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. And my daughter's spouse's mom comes from the UK. Not quite sure where exactly. I should know. I should remember. I was told, but yeah, and I have friends also in Australia. Yeah, I'm glad, Mark, that you feel confident and comfortable. Scott, I don't know whether you would be.
Nothing fills me with less confidence than Mark feeling confident. So.
That's very funny.
Oh, man.
That's very funny. Yeah, I don't know. I feel that as the administrative authoritarianism continues, which I'm concerned that it will, the net tends to get thrown wider and wider and wider, and eventually academics are among the those who are targeted, particularly those who have anything counter or critical to say.
One thing I think we need to be aware of, and I think this is what, any kind of opposition to this government can be labeled now under DEIA, and that's what we have to be careful of. That this is something that, but they've kind of hijacked this aspect, and they've kind of used it in their own regards too. It's also the same thing as this administration has kind of hijacked this, any kind of criticism and the kind of tamping down of, what's happening at universities. They've kind of blamed, or we're trying to protect, Jews from anti-Semitism. Well, that's not true. It's because how many, not to be funny or not to be, but how many anti-Semitic people are around, the administration, right? I mean, how many people have been appointed who publicly share anti-Semitic views, right? So it's not for that, but what it is it's coded language to try to say, listen, we want to stop criticism from the administration, and so they're going to use these excuses or vehicles to do it. So I think we have to also be careful and be wary of that when what might seem as criticism, might not be at this stage, might not be outright criticism. But the kind of canceling might come in the form of, well, you're supporting ideas of DEIA, or you're anti-Semitic, and this administration doesn't care about either.
And let's remember, this group back in 2016 complained about cancel culture. They were being canceled. You're canceling conservative voices, and now they applaud canceling things like Stephen Colbert and Big Brother and things like that. So, hey, hopefully it'll all turn out. Okay.
Yep. So thank you again, Monica. Thank you to our panel and to Dr. Bell. And thank you to all our listeners. I didn't realize that there are 950,000 globally. Thank you for spending some time with us today. We encourage everyone to subscribe to the Nova Society on whatever your preferred platform is. Subscribing is free, and we really appreciate it. Do send us your questions and comments. We appreciate those, and Mark loves to get those emails. So for Scott, Mark, and me, and Dr. Bell at the Nova Society, thank you for listening. Stay safe, and we will see you next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!